and bus stations and subways, which is very exciting to me because I get so nervous when I'm not getting patted down every couple of hours. Today's podcast has Lou Barlow, who for me is one of my favorite musicians, and I've got a really sentimental attachment to his music because I will always associate his music with a time in my life when I got knocked off track, which I consider to be a really good thing. And when I say knocked off track, I mean, if you're lucky, you will encounter a person or a philosophy or psychedelics or a style of music. Usually all those things get mixed together, but you'll come into contact with something that pushes you away from the course of your life that was generally dictated by the whims of your parents or whatever geographical terrain you happen to get blasted out of a pussy into. And generally when you get knocked off track, you know it's happening because people around you, like, who have been trying to condition you and keep you marching in a certain direction, will start getting nervous for you or worried about you. And sometimes rightfully so, because getting knocked off track doesn't always mean that things end up great. It doesn't always mean that you recover from getting knocked off track. Some people get knocked off track by the wrong person and go down a terrible, dark meth spiral that ends with them covered in claw marks all over their face and venereal warts and scabies and stinking of whatever dumpster they happen to be sleeping in. It's not safe. Getting knocked off track isn't safe. And but neither is not getting knocked off track. I mean, if you don't get knocked off track, you can end up in a tremendously terrible situation, just a different kind of situation. Sure, you're clean because you have access to a shower, but inside, if you don't get knocked off track, you can be this bubbling mass of pain and sadness and bitterness because you're locked into the vice of whatever specific iron mask you allowed to get clamped around your head that you pretended was your personality or who you were, and ended up at a bank job that you hate, or in a 2-story suburban house on the breeding grid, blasting loads into a woman that you fell out of love with 3 days after the honeymoon and now feel attached to because you've produced offspring that depend on you for everything, and you desperately try to hide from them your misery, even though it radiates off of you in great blasts and streams of sad horror, so that your kids become infected with your cowardice and end up, much like you, getting lost in the world of corporations and emptiness. And this can go on for generation after generation after generation. Both sides are pretty dangerous because it's dangerous to exist on a planet as a human being that is floating in an enormous vacuum and has caused the extinction of countless species throughout the millennia. I think Doug Stanhope sums up the dangers of ending up in a shit life far better than whatever that rambling monologue was. And I want to play for you. This is actually a comedy bit from Doug Stanhope, who, if you've never listened to Doug Stanhope, immediately go to his website, dougstanhope.com. He not only is he R. Bill Hicks, he's also an amazing writer, and he posts essays up on his website all the time. But before we get into Lou Barlow and Lou Barlow's music, I'm going to play for you this bit by Doug Stanhope, which unfortunately some asshole added folk music to, which you should never, just don't do that. If you find something that you like, if you find some kind of rant or a comedy bit or some kind of monologue that doesn't have folk music behind it or techno music behind it, don't add the techno music. You're not helping. If you want to distribute great information out into the world, go ahead and do it. but you don't have to add a soundtrack to it. It doesn't make it any better. If you put Skrillex behind anything, it in fact will make it seem dumber. You could put Skrillex under the I Have a Dream speech, and the I Have a Dream speech goes from being one of the most inspired speeches in human history to something you might hear a coke-addled beat poet saying in the urinal of a cheap nightclub. So don't add music to stuff. I couldn't find a version of this bit that didn't have music underneath it, so I'm just going to play it. But this is a great bit about what happens if you don't get knocked off course, or what can happen.
See some people stuck in their shitty lives. Do you remember Scared Straight, that program? The documentary in the late 70s, they brought all these delinquent kids into prison who were on the wrong path. They yelled at them. All the prisoners told them about anal rape and all these horrible things to scare them straight, and most of them did. Did you see the 20-year reunion? They did a 20-year reunion where they caught up with all these kids 20 years later, and they all went straight except for one or something. But they were the most gray, dead, ugly people you've ever seen in your lives. They're just miserable and hunched over. They got factory jobs, working at the dairy plant or the pipe manufacturing company, and you know they all wish they had a sack full of Brinks money right now out there on the lam. Wish that dairy plant had a Scared Straight program when they were 18. You want to be like me? You think this is funny, motherfucker? You're just gonna work here as a summer job till you get your shit together. That's what you think. That's what I thought. 40 years. Look at my fucking eyes, motherfucker. 40 years. Give me your goddamn shoes. Give me your shoes.
That's from Stanhope's album, Take the Edge Off. You should get the album if you haven't heard it. And if you've never listened to Doug Stanhope, just put his name into YouTube. He is one of the greats. But that's what happens. You can end up in a dairy factory, or you can end up in a cubicle. You can end up in all kinds of weird, tricky places. I've gotten trapped in a desk job before, and it happens in this amazingly slow way where it's gradually you just kind of get drawn into this comfort. The comfort that comes with a job is spectacular, in that you know every couple of weeks you're going to get this exact amount of money that you can feed into the ATM. And if you don't have a regular job, if you're freelancing, then you just don't know. When those checks go in, that's the last check that goes in. And then after that, you don't know what's going to happen. It's terrifying. And sometimes you have kids, and you got to take care of them. You can't just go wandering off into the streets pretending to be Jesus, or go up into the mountains, because your karma is that you have children that you need to take care of. And I'm definitely not advocating being irresponsible. You do have to deal with the truth of your situation. I think sometimes for some people, the truth of the situation is that you have to transform whatever specific thing that you happen to have gotten trapped into something that teaches you, and something that compels you to work really, really hard to get out of the trap. This is something Ram Dass talks about when he talks about spiritual practice. He calls those traps. He says that any type of true spiritual practice should be a self-destructing trap, which lures you into it. You begin to, follow whatever the specific dogma is, or ceremony, or patterns of the thing. And then, if the thing is true, then you begin to realize that you don't need the dogma anymore, and you don't need the patterns of the thing, and you don't need whatever specific discipline that went along with the religion or spiritual path that you picked up. You begin to realize that the thing was inside you all the time, and so it falls apart. Well, I guess that's what everything should be like, really, is over time, everything just goes from being manacles keeping you clamped down in some shit life to a kind of jungle gym set where if you can, if you have the skill and the mindfulness and the willpower, then you can use whatever the thing is to gain enough strength to break free from it. Like in the Conan movie, where they put him on whatever that horse track is, and somehow from pushing that log around in a circle over the course of 15 years, he gets like a weightlifter's body, as though somewhere on that horse track there was a triceps machine and some human growth hormone. So we all get trapped. I'm not saying to quit whatever you're in or to stop whatever you're in. Just recognize that if you are in a situation, and by the way, sometimes people will like send me emails reprimanding me because sometimes we on this podcast, or when I go on Rogan's podcast, we'll always use the term like trapped in a cubicle. And people will write and say, I love my job and I'm in a cubicle. Why do you talk down to us like that? And I can see how it would seem pretentious or pompous for somebody who's like, who does a podcast and isn't in that situation to be talking about how bad it is. But I've been in that situation, number one. And number two, what I'm saying has been validated recently in the news, where a Gallup poll showed that something like 80% of workers don't like their jobs, which isn't a mind-blowing surprise to me, but that 80% of them had mentally checked out from their jobs. So I'm not saying anything brand new. If you're somebody who works in a cubicle and you're enjoying it, well, you're one of the lucky 20% or 30%. But a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people end up, a lot of people are in a kind of terrible coma. One of my friends just actually walked out of his job because he couldn't take it anymore. He walked out of his job. He had the guts to finally tell his boss to fuck off and walked out of the job, and it was terrifying. There's no guarantee that if you have to be smart. There's no guarantee that escaping from a specific type of trap is going to lead to a Disney movie ending. It doesn't always work like that. If it worked like that, then everyone at this very moment would go pouring into the streets from the terrible high-rises where they had found themselves wrapped in glass and steel, having their life, energy, and their time extracted from them by corporate vampires who transform it into gobs of money that they then use to fuel their wild Illuminati sex parties where they mouth fuck Tibetan monks who they have had shipped in from China. Anyway, I'll always have a kind of I'll always have a sentimental feeling towards Lou Barlow and towards his various bands, because I associate his music with a time when I was getting a lot of information downloaded into my brain, which was when I was in college, and I was just learning about existentialism, and I was lucky enough to have made friends with this lunatic named Emil Amos, who ended up starting a band called the Holy Sons, and who now plays drums in a band called Ohm, and has been in the podcast a few times. But he was the guy who introduced me to this genre of music, but not just this genre of music, but a kind of ethic that goes along with it, which is this ethic of brutal honesty with oneself. And that sounds, when you hear it, being honest with yourself, I think a lot of people pretend that they're being honest with themselves, or like to think that they're completely honest with themselves. But this level of honesty that I learned about, which you can find if you read The Myth of Sisyphus by Camus, or maybe read The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky, or if you start examining some Sartre or Nietzsche, all the kind of stuff that you end up encountering when you're in college if you go to a liberal arts school. If you read that stuff, it's a type of honesty that undercuts whatever the zeitgeist or the conditioning happens to be. It goes underneath everything. And from that undercutting it can, from reading it can actually cause you to start walking with a philosophical limp, because you begin to realize that maybe your whole life you've been lying to yourself about what you really like, or who you really are, or what you really want. Because a lot of people just pretend that they want what they want. They act like the life that they're living is really the life that they want to be living. And they've gotten so good at pretending that that's the life that they want that they actually forget their real dreams. This is one of the worst forms of The Walking Dead that exists. I mean, you're worse than a zombie when this happens, because a zombie knows what it wants. A zombie wants human flesh. It wants to fill its mouth with the hot, warm guts of the living. This form of zombie, it doesn't even know what it's eating food that it doesn't like. It's usually with a woman or a man that it's settled for. It's usually in relationships that are these lukewarm, tepid little things that are just based on safety and comfort and have no spark or passion inside of them. And this kind of zombie will try to gain success in fields that it has no interest in. It'll try to become an actor or a real estate agent or something it just doesn't even want to do. And sometimes this zombie will actually get success in that field, but everything that it gets, it doesn't satisfy it at all. Which is why sometimes you'll meet very successful people and it looks like the Grim Reaper has chiseled out the interior of their face just underneath the skin, and their face kind of drops backwards into their head, and they have these just giant black circles under their eyes and this bleary, tired look. They look like zombies, and the reason they look like that is because they haven't been eating the right food. Not literally eating the right food, but eating the food of life that they really crave. For example, when you go and watch Grizzly Man, you see Timothy Treadwell, who is clearly a gay man who is pretending to be straight, and because he can't handle probably what his real sexuality is, he's gone wandering off into the wilderness to try to hang out with grizzly bears, because for him it's easier to be around the most ferocious animals on earth than it is to deal with the truth of who he really is. And that's what it is for a lot of people. A lot of people would rather eat breakfast with a wild grizzly bear than eat breakfast with their true selves. And so there's certain kinds of music and there's certain types of philosophy that act like garlic or crucifixes to vampires when it comes to this sort of person, where when they hear it for the first time, they think that they'll think that they're just listening to a crazy person or a retarded person singing. That's what I thought the first time I heard Daniel Johnston. It was horrifying to me, because at the time I was so closed in and pretending to be happy when I was absolutely miserable, and quite often would pretend that I was telling the truth when in fact I was just lying about how I felt or who I really was. And when you come into contact with someone who's a musician, like Daniel Johnston, Nick Drake, Lou Barlow, Elliott Smith, when you come into contact with someone who is honestly articulating exactly how they feel, you're listening to what I would consider heroism. You're listening to it takes sonic courage, because it takes I don't know how you do it, actually. I don't know. But what it does when you hear this level of honesty is it activates the honest part of yourself. And if you've been hiding from yourself, it can have the same effect on you that, getting paranoid from smoking weed, it's the same thing can happen. If you smoke really powerful marijuana and you've been hiding shit from yourself, then suddenly you will go into a paranoid episode because you begin to think about all this shit that you've been trying to ignore, whatever it is. From the most mundane stuff like you need to clean your house to the deepest stuff like you're totally not in love with the person that you're married to. And all that stuff will come swirling and spiraling up out of your subconscious, and it can be brutal. And that's what creates the bad marijuana trips that you hear so many people complain about. Well, philosophy and music and art of a certain type can have that same exact effect on you. It's the effect of coming into contact with truth. And when you come into contact with truth, quite often, not all the time, but quite often, it's a painful thing, especially if you've been being dishonest to yourself for most of your life. It just hurts. It feels weird. It feels crazy. When I first heard Daniel Johnston, I thought that I was hearing like actual satanic music. And really what I was hearing is someone who was being honest. But I'd been lying to myself for so long that my brain told me that truth was equal to Satan. But like all tough truths or weird truths or hard truths, what ends up happening is if you don't run away from it and you begin to contemplate it and roll it around in your head, the thing that seems so dark and horrific, you begin to find is actually one of the most beautiful things that you've ever come in contact with. This is also true not just for music and art. It's true when you get like a cancer diagnosis, for example. A thing that initially seems so awful, nightmarish, and monstrous can quite often be the thing that turns you into a human being and helps you appreciate life, maybe for the first time ever. Okay, sorry for the long-winded rant, you guys. But if you're upset about these rants, I'm surprised you still listen to the podcast. And if you're really upset about them, then I'm about to blow your fucking mind here. You can skip ahead on this stuff because it's not on TV. So I'm not sure what device you're using, oh irritable asshole who's upset because I rambled too long at the beginning of my podcast. But there's that arrow that moves around when you move your mouse. You can take that arrow and see that timeline with the blue line rolling through it or whatever the color of the line is. You can just skip ahead, jerk. You didn't have to listen to this. It's your fault you listened to it. And if it was so horrible, even if you were driving, you should have just pulled over. Jesus, leave me alone. Just trying to get it out, man. Okay, here is a track from the Sentridoh album, Weed Forestin', which is available at lubycore.com, and it's called New. Okay, I'm going to play one more Lou Barlow song. This song's called Don't Call Me Ryder. And I saw Lou Barlow play this live, and it melted my brain. If you ever get a chance to see him live, go see him live. I'm going to play this one more song, which I think is a really good example of this style of music. And then we're going to get going with this podcast. Duncan Trussell Family Hour is brought to you by Sure Design T-shirts. Sure Design T-shirts can be found at suredesigntshirts.com. They produce some of the softest T-shirts known to man. Why are their shirts so soft? Well, I'll tell you, because unlike many other T-shirt companies in Thailand, when the toddlers they use to clean out the gears of their T-shirt manufacturing robot get trapped and die in the back gears, instead of removing the bodies, as they do in most other T-shirt companies, they actually leave the bodies there, which causes the bodies to decompose, creating rivulets of putrid rot that roll down, oiling the gears and creating a thin substance that is the framework that they use to place their genetically modified silkworms on. These silkworms are shipped in straight from Chernobyl, and the combination of the rotting putrescent of Thai toddlers and radioactive silkworm thread combines to make some wonderfully soft fabric, which is then printed with designs that are the last words of gutter drunks who, as they perish, the folks at Sure Design T-shirts record their final hallucinations and then use professional ink vomiters to vomit ink on the shirts, creating the amazing designs that you see. Check them out at SureDesignT-shirts.com. If you put my name in, you will get 10% off of these shirts. Much thanks to those of you who've been donating to the Duncan Trussell Family Hour podcast. Here's some awesome news. We finally finished our T-shirt contest. The Duncan Trussell Family Hour forum, located at DuncanTrussell.com, voted on 2 amazing T-shirt designs, and we are now doing pre-sale orders for these designs. So if you want to get one of the new shirts and they sell out really fast, then why not go to DuncanTrussell.com and order one of these pre-sale shirts. We also have posters, stickers, and a variety of other stuff over at the shop. I know. You've been wandering around in the streets, screaming at every law officer and child that you pass, screaming, how can I support the Duncan Trussell Family Hour podcast if I don't want to buy a goddamn shirt? Well, here's the answer. You can go to Amazon.com. You can go through our Amazon portal. We have a portal at DuncanTrussell.com. It's a simple button that you click. The next time you're going to buy your textbooks, the next time you're going to buy your magnifying glasses, microscopes, the next time you're going to buy your precursors to methamphetamines, the next time you're going to buy the vases that you store the incinerated ashes of the derelicts you've been torturing in your basement, anything that you buy on Amazon, if you go through the link at DuncanTrussell.com, they give us a small percentage. So that's an easy way that you can support the Duncan Trussell Family Hour while being a materialistic locust devouring the flesh of the earth by ordering the many bizarre and strange things that are available on Amazon. Everything's available there. Why do you go outside? You don't have to deal with that nasty old sun and the horrible effects it has on your sweet, pristine skin anymore. You can just sit on your chair, rub mayonnaise deep into the folds of your body, and type in anything, and it'll be in your house, usually the next day. So if you want to order 2 giant loaves of bread to put around your mayonnaise-soaked recluse Boo Radley body, I bet they have it at Amazon.com. And finally, the Duncan Trussell Family Hour podcast is sponsored by Audible.com. Audible produces some of the most amazing audiobooks ever. And if you sign up for a trial membership, you get a free audiobook download. I just downloaded The Chi of Running, which is a book that a friend of mine who got me into running told me about. And it's a book that apparently explains to you how to run using the principles of Tai Chi. I've only gotten through 6 minutes of it and already got a little frustrated, but I will say he said something interesting. You can run like a child. And I didn't really understand what that meant until 2 days ago. I was going on a jog, and I passed a couple who let their toddler race with me. This little girl wearing flip-flops. She shot ahead of me by, like, instantaneously, like a bottle rocket. Just blasted out in front of me wearing flip-flops. I couldn't keep up. So I'm probably just really sick and out of shape is what that means. It probably has nothing to do with Tai Chi. You can get The Chi of Running. You can get Stephen King books. You can get the Dark Tower series, my favorite series. They have the Bhagavad Gita there, and you've got nothing to lose. If you sign up for a trial membership, you get a free audiobook. You can download that free audiobook and then cancel the membership and run cackling off into the digital forest with your freshly procured audiobook blasting into your witch ears as you take advantage of this wonderful offer. You digital beast. You bastard. How dare you? I would do it. I wouldn't do it because I like getting... every month you get 2 audiobooks, which you can then listen to drown out the sound of whatever you happen to be near. Just stick those earbuds in, and the auditory version of reality goes away. I gotta stop talking. All right, everyone. I think I've done enough build-up for this podcast. Today's guest is in the band Sebadoh, is in the band Sentridoh, co-founder of the band Dinosaur Jr., a legend of music. Go to his website, lubycore.com. Download the new Sebadoh album, which is coming out, I think, in less than a month. I will play a track from the new Sebadoh album at the end of this podcast, which I found on SoundCloud. And go check him out. Now, everyone, please welcome to the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, my musical hero, the legend, Lou Barlow. Lou Barlow, welcome to the Duncan Trussell Family Hour.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing the show. The last time you did this show was when I was the Lavender Hour, when I was still with Natasha.
Yep. In that really sweet place near Ivanhoe Elementary.
Yes, that is a sweet pad.
Yeah, I saw some people in your old driveway the other day because I was walking my daughter by there.
I'm sure there's always people there having fun, eating fruit, dancing.
Yeah, there's a lot of canopies in those yards back there now. You know, those party canopy things.
Yep.
So people are enjoying it.
It's a Hotel California out there. I'm sure that's what it's like over there, huh? Non-stop orgies, wine, fountains.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I know it, the context I know it is, it's right, the elementary school is right there, so I know it for...
Right.
The elementary school area.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I shouldn't have... Yeah. No orgies have ever happened near an elementary school.
No, I'm sure there. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. They're everywhere. Not fun. Don't want to go to an orgy. That's never been something I've been drawn to. Have you? Pause. Of course, you're a rock star. You go to...
No, I mean, I've never... Yeah, but I guess... I've been curious about what actually... Yeah. To be honest, yeah.
I'm too...
I mean, I know that it would be weird and it would be like... But I guess just it's a part of a human experience. It sort of read... As a young age, I was like... I thought that seemed like a good idea.
Right.
As an adult, of course, you understand what the big picture is. But when I was younger, it was sort of something I was kind of fascinated by. So...
I think I'm too insecure to go to an orgy. Is the problem? I can barely go to a pool without feeling just like I'm this disgusting pit demon that crawled into the pool, much less an orgy.
Well, I would just like observing it, or just seeing what was actually how people were interacting with each other. I don't know how I would react in a sexual way, but I know that just at least mentally, or I have to say I'm a little curious.
Now I want to go to one. My friend goes to him. He was telling me all about it. He said like there's different, they'll have like sometimes swingers will get a hotel and they'll have different orgy rooms, and so like there's rooms where you can just go and watch.
Yeah. But
then there's rooms where if you're there, you've got to fuck. Like there's no choice.
Well, you always have a choice.
Yeah, let's hope.
At least as men, we generally do.
If you don't, it's bad. You're in prison, or there's a very...
If you don't,
it sucks. You never want to hear that. You never want to hear there's no choice but to fuck here. Well, 9 times out of 10, that's a bad thing to hear. So what's been going on? I didn't mean to... I'm sorry we opened up on some weird... It's an orgy talk.
No, it was interesting, actually. Yeah. Sorry, I don't feel really articulate. I'm trying to. Okay. Yes. I haven't smoked in a while, so.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You know that's actually you'll be. That's fairly mild.
I know
marijuana. It's the PCP in there that's strong.
Yeah. It's funny. I've sort of stopped smoking pot regularly, and then my life really changed. Like what we were talking about. I was trying to figure out the correlation between the two for like very recently I was thinking about it, because pot would always manage to give me these great moments where I just examine everything that was going on in my life, or if I had a disagreement with somebody, I would just think about it so much and find ways around it, or see how maybe the other person felt. I really considered it to be a really like part of my empathy, or it was but then I guess recently looking back on it, I wonder if it was actually something that really made me avoid a lot of stuff in my life, almost in that cliche way that they say drugs do, but I never really believed, because I always thought pot was really something that was about discovery, and since I've kind of been off of it for, a while, like at least 9 or 10 months. So
wow.
So it's made me, I've kind of had to re-examine what its role in my life was, and so I don't know.
Well, it can goddamn be it's an addiction for some people. I mean, that's the somehow marijuana's managed to squirm its way into a category for some people where they've like just decided it's
well, they smoke insane amounts of it.
Yeah.
People who there's musicians that I know that are like, they will smoke an eighth a day easy, and they can't even keep it on tour with them because they just literally wake up and smoke it copious amounts all day long.
Yeah.
And I've never done that.
I've never done that. I've gotten close where I've gone into eting it and stuff where I'll wake up and chomp on it, and then
I've done that. I did that fairly recently in my life. That was my last that was the last bit that actually kind of scared me out of daily use of marijuana, was eating it.
Oh.
I had some massive paranoid attacks.
Yes. Those attacks are amazing. They're almost like seizures or something.
Yeah, they generally would resolve themselves nicely, but the onset of them was terrifying, like really, especially because I have kids and stuff. And
right.
And when I have that kind of responsibility that I carry around, it's like, it's not like it was when you're younger. You're like, oh, I think I'm going to die right now. I'm going to get hit by a car. It's like, it becomes much more just devastatingly.
I can't die because I have to take care of my kids.
I know, and you're thinking about the children and all of the possibilities for them. It's like what you're thinking about, all the possibilities, all the worst case scenarios are multiplied.
Yeah,
it's not just about your little worst case scenario. It's about everyone around you and the people that you take care of, their worst case scenario. So
there's a Louis C.K. joke, and I can't remember how it goes. I don't even know if I don't have the whole joke even memorized, but I remember him saying, if you don't have kids, you're nothing. You're really just nothing. You're just a piece. It was really brutal. He's like, you don't have anything to take care of. You don't know what it's like. You don't understand. And I think that's a harsh way of saying something that I've heard reflected in so many different of my friends who have kids, which is that you really don't understand until you cross over that threshold, when suddenly you have this being that is looking at you in the most loving way that depends on you. And I know, man. I don't. That's the problem. I'm able to just kind of run amok through my life because I have a Roomba. I have an electronic robot vacuum cleaner. That's and some plants.
Yeah, but that's okay. Actually, I'm more understanding. I think there is a time when I was a bit smug about it, I guess, like being a parent, like, you don't know. But
you know what?
It's okay. But it's like, I don't know. Just, I guess recently just with myself, it's like, it doesn't like having this, I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it's like, God, I can't.
Can you talk about what we were talking about before?
Yeah, well, I would say, like, okay, you're saying, like, when I didn't have kids, it's like I could do anything I wanted.
Yeah.
But now that I do have kids, you know what? I can do anything I want.
Right.
It took a while to come to that realization, to go that like actually I can follow my instincts still, and I can still, even this is hard. I mean, I don't know. Basically, I can still take risks, and I can actually, we're all still kind of, singular people that are struggling with what we want to do and what we want from life, and what we, and we all do. We can make those decisions, and even when you have children, and I feel like I'm wandering out onto like really thin ice by talking about this because I haven't really figured it out. But I don't know. Like for myself, like I made some really huge decisions in my life.
Yeah,
and I have children.
Yes,
and I have a huge thing that I was taking, and I just had this. I'm like, I'm going to be on the run for the rest of my life, no matter what.
Right.
So I'm like, if I'm going to be on the run, I still have to think about what I want out of every day and what I want, and it's not necessarily determined by my responsibilities.
Oh, yeah. There you go. That's the old...
Maybe I'm getting to it. Maybe I'm getting to the point I was trying to make.
No, there's this, when you start studying like Bhakti Yoga and the symbol systems in Bhakti Yoga, it can get really confusing because one of the main symbols in Bhakti Yoga is this being Krishna that represents the source of all happiness, love, beauty, right. Just a combination of all the great things, of all the great deities, a mixture of like Pan, the good parts of Jesus thrown in with like, you name it. This is just this wildly mischievous, like just pure romantic being. And one of the main symbols is this being, Krishna goes out into this clearing in the forest and plays his flute, and all the milkmaids that live in the nearby villages, they leave their children, they leave their I can't remember the exact word, they leave their candles burning, they leave their lives, and they go to follow this being out into the forest, and
right.
and so this is the sort of symbol for when you catch this weird transcendent feeling or sound or whatever the thing it is, then your life becomes the life that you have solidified, or the ego structure you'd crystallized around you, or whatever the thing is, suddenly becomes unreal. It becomes imaginary, and the pursuit of this being or the union with this being becomes everything.
Right.
And so that's when you hear that in religion, it goes counter to what we understand with like religion being this thing that makes you wear a suit and go to work at the insurance firm.
Right.
This is like the mystical approach. It's like, no, you just get drawn. I mean, if you look at like, not to be completely narcissistic, but all the stories in religion are supposed to be a reflection of the human experience. And if you look at the story of Muhammad and Jesus and Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, these are all wanderers that were just like, I'm wandering through. Christ vanished for I don't know how many years. He just vanished into the nothingness. And I think they say he had a wife. And Muhammad went off into this cave, where he received this transmission, and then Buddha was just split from his existence to go off into the forest. So anyway, it's that idea of like, shit, man, do I pretend to be happy in this calcified structure, or do I, as the ultimate symbol of freedom, continue this journey into the unknown? Right.
The unknown. And that can mean anything. I mean, I guess... the unknown could be literally walking into the forest, or the unknown can just be a few blocks away from your house.
Oh yeah, sure. It's this like, I had this crazy dream recently where I I realized that I was a werewolf, and somebody was like, "We can fix you," and I thought, no, I don't want to be fixed, even though I know it's going to mean I'm going to eat people. And then I went and was standing in front of this wide expanse of this primordial forest, and I felt like the things wolves feel, this sense of like, that feeling. When that feeling goes away from life, then what are you? You turn into like a dried bit of gum at a theme park or something.
Yeah. Well, yes. I'm sorry. I really like listening to you. It's like I feel like I don't want to talk.
Please
talk.
I
like listening. I like. Well, you're coming. Your words are just so easily cascading out of you, which is amazing. And then I have a hard time like getting that same thing going because I'm trying to explain things that I'm still in the midst of figuring out. But I mean, I guess, for me, I hit a point in my life. I don't know. I was like, do I spend the rest of my life this way? Struggling with these things that I'm struggling with, that I openly am struggling with them. And my struggle is actually starting to go overground. It's starting to come out of I'm starting to act out, as you would say. I'm starting to I'm seeking connection now. Like I've got to find some connection outside of what is going on in my life on a daily basis.
Right.
My marriage. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's say my marriage. So, and I mean, for me, I'm not a person that has I'm extremely loyal. I have a lot of like really close and long lasting friendships with people and an incredible loyalty to my wife, and she was my first love. And, and then that a couple of years ago, everything started to kind of slide for me.
Yeah.
Mentally. So the facade that I was keeping, which I was perfectly happy keeping. I love facades. I think they're amazing what you can do with just building them every day. And they can be really incredibly positive things and things that inspire others. I mean, it's like a facade is not necessarily, I've never really thought of it. I mean, no, it's a negative connotation to it, but I do think that it's really important to be strong for the people in your life and to always look on another side. And that was part of POT for me. Like I was saying, that I would just really, keeping this structure, in my life and the people around me secure. And I don't mean just my children, but, anybody that I'm I have lived a kind of complicated life because it's all, it's like what you do, surviving on your wits, basically.
Right.
So you don't have this, you're not part of a big structure. You're really, you are what you make your life with your mind, with your art, with whatever.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's pretty precarious. It's a really precarious way to do it.
It's a constant feeling of insecurity and a constant sense of, or it can easily go into that or, yeah. What is that awesome line in your song? That great. There's one of your. I can't remember the name of it, but one of the lines is, "All my confidence has jumped the fence and moved along." You know that line?
Yeah.
God damn, that's great, man. Where you get to this place where you're like, yeah, the confidence just isn't there, And talk about facades. Now you've got to put on this show of confidence, but with marriages and relationships, when you hit that place where you feel like the man in the iron mask and you don't want to be wearing whatever this thing is that you constructed anymore. That is a real curious position to get into because you have to decide between being a martyr and then who wants a martyr daddy or mommy? There's nothing worse than a martyr mommy. I have friends whose parents have directly said to them, "I gave up my life for you." It's like, really? Well, fuck you. You're a dumbass. Am I supposed to respect you for that now?
Right.
Am I supposed to look at you and think, oh, what a great example you gave? You mean you gave up the most important thing that you had in this incarnation so that you could give resentful fucking love to me for my whole life? Wonderful. I feel great. So I'm essentially a parasite. Right. You're telling me the same thing you'd say to a sentient leech or something that was on you. Like, I'm giving my life's blood to keep...
I'm lucky my parents never, ever said anything like that to me. And I think the people that do have experienced that with their parents, I think it really hurts them. And it becomes something that really sticks with them.
Yeah.
So I feel very fortunate that my parents didn't do that to me,
Yeah. Well,
and so...
It's weak.
It's not good.
It's not good, but again, so it's like, I would, and again, I'm speaking from a place of I don't have kids, so forgive me all of you who do have kids, and because I know that it's out in a way, it's kind of out of line because I don't understand the depth of the experience, so I'm only looking at it from an outsider's perspective. Mm-hmm. But I would think like, and from a romantic ideal, the most important thing in raising a kid is honesty, setting an example, truthfulness, and letting them have a real experience of the world. And because kids, it seems like kids and dogs can sniff out bullshit real quick anyway. So if you're going around in a kind of false happiness in a marriage in front of your kid where the whole thing is a seething hell and you're pretending it's okay, what is that doing for the kid?
Yeah.
They're living an illusion. They're living in this puff of illusion. I don't know what the answer to it is.
I never lived in a seething hell, but I felt it coming, and that's why I felt the seething coming. And I just felt like this tidal wave of negativity that was going to overtake me and was overtaking me and making decisions for me. And leading me into really precarious situations with other beautiful people that I shouldn't be fucking with.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? But I was doing it out of a place of sort of desperation and leading into other people's lives and sort of intruding on their lives with your sort of that kind of energy when they're just looking for love.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Really
I know what you mean. You mean like when people come to you and they want to be with you, they're loving, but the energy that you're applying to it isn't the same energy at all. It's almost like you're wanting to what's the word for it? My mom actually said this in one of the podcasts, charge and discharge. You just want to discharge.
Wow.
You want to discharge and they want to experience intimacy and love with you. And you're just I got to get rid of this.
I got to get rid of this energy that I'm carrying around. Yeah. That's what was going on. And when I realized that I was, when I had sort of looked outside my marriage, at least, in a sexual way, I was like, whoa. I'm really messing with a lot of energy that I kind of have no business doing to someone else. And I don't, and I don't have that. And since I go into every relationship that I go into with this totally, I'm not a opportunistic person. I'm not really a user. I'm not really it's not where I want to be. I want to I really I love to nurture, and I love that's what I want in my life, and that's what I've always worked towards, and this was the opposite of that.
Oh yeah,
it was this is so against my, I went into it wide eyed. It's not like I was I need this in my life. I need connection. I want this. I want it, and I want it, and I'm going to get it. I'm just going to do it. And I can do it. I can. Wow. Holy shit. I can actually do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and then the implications of that, just personally, and for the people that it was just kind of really profound and sad and
well, because we're dealing with, the problem is the conditioning. We're dealing with some serious fucked up conditioning as far as sex goes in everybody's head. So, in a utopian society where people have been raised in the right way, then if somebody came to you and needed to discharge, as they say, you would just be.
I love how that's so raw. That's
great.
I love
You'd be like, "Let me help you. Let me help you. I see that you're suffering in this way. Maybe I can help you." And then after I help you, and then if nothing comes of that, then it was just a loving gesture that I gave to you, no matter what. Mm-hmm. But the way things really work is that it's because sometimes I thought, I think about how awesome porn would be if instead of just showing the 30 or 45 minutes of fucking, you saw the 5 hours preceding and the 5 hours after, kind of like Magnolia or something. You see them go off in their different ways and maybe just see their lives when there isn't that burst of fucking in it. It's fucking is... even if someone does, even if you find a girl and you just want to have sex with her and she just wants to have sex with you, there's still this feeling of it's shines this light on the plasticity of the physical or something.
Right.
And that just is, it's getting, did I ever, there's this saying, I heard once talking about materialism or materialists. And they describe a dog. They say that, like, imagine a dog in a village like in India with no teeth, and it just got gums, and it finds an old dry bone. And it goes to this old dry bone. It's starving, and so it starts gumming this old dry bone with its toothless third world dog mouth. And so it's like gums start getting cut open by the bone, and it begins to drink its own blood, but it begins to think that the blood is coming from the bone, so it continues to chew on the bone, ripping up its mouth. And that's like used to compare like trying to get pleasure from the material universe, or trying to get like that basic sense gratification from shit. You're just basically ripping yourself up.
It's good.
Yeah, it's a good one, man. but then there's the whole other side of it, which is that, connection it can be a very positive thing. And, this is where you get into like if you ever read Sex at Dawn, the book Sex at Dawn by Chris Ryan, you heard of this book?
No, I haven't.
It's just a book about how, primates tend to not be monogamous at all. They might have a life partner, but they will cheat on the life partner, and that's just the way it is. And if you look at indigenous tribes, what you will find is that there's this idea of monogamy is insanity. They have an idea.
Right.
Their idea is that, or one of the ideas is the idea that they don't think one blast of jizz makes a baby. They think that a baby comes from the combined semen of different tribesmen. Yeah.
No, that's how you get the stronger babies.
Yes.
You get that sperm in there really like battling it out.
That's it. And so evolutionarily, the idea is that non-monogamy is better than monogamy, and that since monogamy is a relatively new thing in the course of our species, what inevitably ends up happening in the course of a marriage or a long-term relationship is you hit that place where you're like, I think I want to fuck somebody else. And then you start feeling guilty and crazy. And then that's like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
I can't be everything for you. You mean I can't be every single thing for you in the universe? Like, of course not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry for that rant.
Well, that made me think that, the reason that I would look outside my marriage is not because I wanted someone else or was looking. I just wanted sex.
Right. Simple.
I wanted sex. I wanted that connection, and I would have gladly taken it from the known source.
Oh, right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I would have had it not become so incredibly complicated. And it became like a sort of, it was something that like, and I just had to say, to me, like it's so like sex is so important to me. It's like,
me too.
I have to be, and I'm not saying like and I was in a 25-year relationship, and I would have happily and did happily have sex with one person for a long time, and I did not have the sense of being sick of the person or like something, because I think sex is so wonderful, such a healing thing, and when it's a communication, it's a really incredibly fulfilling thing.
Yeah.
Like intimacy is incredible, and I don't think it's impossible to find someone that you can access that kind of intimacy with, and it could last a long, long time, So I'm thinking like but for me, I guess 25 years into my 47 years or 46 years into my life, 25 years into a marriage, I'm thinking, well, if that's what I want in my life and it's as important as I know it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to deny it anymore, and I'm not going to make myself feel guilty about it anymore. I'd already experimented with that, so it basically, all of my sort of wandering things, it just sort of boiled down to that. I just was like, I have to just acknowledge straight up, I want full on intimacy with somebody. I want to try that again. I want to try, it's like, I want to try, it's like, I need that stability.
But see, but this is where monogamy gets fucked up, because in the game that you end up playing in a long-term relationship like that, instead of it being okay, great, it's like, what? No. There's a no there. I don't know the specifics of what's happening with you, but I know if you go and look up is he on Google.
Is he
cheating will be the first thing that comes up. If you look up is she, next word, cheating. So all these like people are so scared and freaked out at the idea of their partner going off to be with someone else that's on Google. That's the number one. It's not like is he happy? Yeah. That's not the first one that comes up. It's is he cheating? And so that means that there's a shitload of people who are frightened that their partners are cheating, and the reason they're frightened that their partners are cheating is that we have been programmed, or we have been taught that if that for a person to go and have sex with someone else is pretty much like the worst thing that can happen in a relationship, and I think it's because if it's done as a lie, secretly or sneaking around, I understand the betrayal, but if there should be built in, by now we are evolving as a species, there should be built in something, an acknowledgement of like, there's a, 70% divorce rate? I think there's a 70% divorce. 73 today. It ticked up today. But you know what I mean? It should be built in like, hey, I get it. You want to have sex. I don't want to have sex right now. You want to have sex for whatever reason in my life. I don't feel like having sex right now.
I don't feel right. Yeah.
But I love you, and I want you to be happy, so go and have sex. God, that sounds so naive and stupid. But I think if that was built in, then marriages wouldn't fall apart like they do.
Yeah, well, maybe in the future that'll be the case,
Yeah.
I could see that like, working maybe a little better, a little later, once the institution is truly crumbled, you know what I mean? Because as these institutions crumble, like marriage, or they become understood in a different way. Marriage becomes a different thing, It doesn't become so much about like this, what you're talking about, like monogamy. It doesn't become so much about, it becomes more about a partnership, and two people dealing with each other and dealing with all of the complexities. Right now, it's still very simplistic, the way that it's laid out, like you said, and the way that we're raised culturally. It's very simplistic.
Simple. The
reality of it is incredibly complicated.
Yes. Insane.
It's a partnership that you can enter into with somebody. It's almost like a, and there's certainly like, there's legal reasons for doing it. Having children. There's monetary reasons for doing it.
Yep.
There's symbolic reasons for doing it.
Yep.
And which will probably, that symbolic part will always appeal to people, even if that's, they have 5 marriages, at least that each one of those marriages meant something to them.
Yep.
Some kind of let me turn my phone off. But, anyway.
Well, you guys should try, I don't know where it is with you and her now, but there's a lot of like, a lot of people have been, I never personally did this, or like I tried it. Well, I tried it after a relationship ended. I went and took ecstasy, to see what happened, but we did it the wrong way. But there's a huge underground that I've heard of marriage therapists that using MDMA to try to return things, to get back to that original state of, wow, this is incredible, to like get underneath all the calcified bullshit layers that form. And I think I could see that being quite successful because they're using it now. They've reopened tests on it.
I've heard ecstasy used in therapy, and it seems like a good idea to me, especially if it was pharmaceutical, and because it is a really, I don't know. I kind of, those experiences with those drugs in my youth, there were always amazing experiences. Not always with them, but there's always at least one time where it wasn't terrible. It sort of, obviously for me, or not obviously, but for me, those kind of drugs, like it hit a wall for me at some point where it wasn't giving me that, but I had a few pivotal, like really beautiful experiences with them.
Yeah.
Where I thought I did really make some real progress into understanding myself and understanding the people around me. And I mean, maybe becoming a better person. I've always thought those experiences were like, I consider them like important things that happened to me, like really important experiences, and I don't want my kids to ever do that. Ever.
No.
But
you don't want your kids to do them the way you did them. The way you did them, I don't know the way you did them. The way I did them was going down to this fucking trailer with like animal bones on the walls and buying shitty acid from a guy. Hare Krishna. You could go find out more about Lou Barlow by going to lubycore.com. And if you like the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, why not go to iTunes and give us a good rating? Okay, I'm going to play a song from Sebadoh's upcoming new album called Secret EP, and you can get that, you can pre-order that at Joyful Noise Recordings, which is located at joyfulnoiserecordings.com. So you can pre-order the EP now, and here's a track from it, which I found on Spin Magazine. I'll put a link to that article at duncantrussell.com, but here's a link to a track from that album called Keep the Boy Alive. And if you go to spin.com, you can probably hear something where the sound quality is a little better because I recorded it using Wiretap Studio. So I'll have a link to the entire EP, which is at spin.com. All right, see you guys later. Bye.